Welcome back to Notorious Autosports. This week again, we are working on the Project Zero, and all of these parts behind me on the floor, by the end of the day, have to be attached to that. It's got to be down on the ground with wheels on it and be able to roll out of the shop. Ambitious, probably, but I'm running out of time. I don't have much choice, so here we go.
Yeah.
Alright, so we've got our SN95 style spindle. This is the 9495 with the bent steering arm. The 96 and up have the straight steering arm. They will increase your track width. I'm keeping stock Fox track width. The only time you'll want to change that is if you are using something like a Maximum Motorsports K member. They actually integrate their control arms and all of that for using the 96 and up. And then we have our set of iBox springs here. I purchased these a couple years ago actually, and they never even saw the road. They got installed, I believe, for mock-up, and then that was it. So a little shorter than stock, but still gonna give me a lot of trouble, I'm sure. So I'm gonna go through and you guys can watch me fight trying to get these in. Alright, my camera died, but as you can see, there was nothing glamorous about that whatsoever. I rode the struggle bus for a good long while there. Ended up putting a ratchet strap through here, goes to the other side of the K member, around the spring, and then around as well to help pull the spring in. Kind of helped, but the biggest thing is actually getting the spring compressed, and where are they? These don't work because they instantly hit the control arm. So I haven't had success with them in the past, but they're the only ones I got here right now, so I tried them again. Still fail. Right now the spring's in there. I did have the spring rotated a little more clockwise, I guess. It made the top nicer to get in. But then I wasn't able to rotate it back to counterclockwise to get the tail of the spring in the correct spot in the spring pocket. So I tried and tried and tried, and the spring ended up coming out, which was good that I had the strap on there so that it didn't launch out. In the end, I ended up putting this punch down. I let the spring down as far as I could and pried it up with a pry bar, put the punch down on an angle so the spring was resting here and this was down in the valley of the spring pocket, and pried and got it to rotate. So now it is finally in position. I would highly recommend doing this with an engine in the car, or better yet, just put airbags on your car. Problem solved. And this thing will eventually be getting a ride, but for now, this is what it gets. So I pulled the strut out, it was in my way, it was driving me nuts. Let's go ahead, get that reinstalled. I've lost track of my hardware, I've lost track of my mind. Can we even get a strut on there? No, we cannot. So I'm gonna have to try and rig up some ratchet straps or something onto the spring over the shock tower, strut tower, try and pull it up a little more, because, well, I'm at the limit of my jack and I'm only a quarter way of the bolt being in the hole there. So we'll try some creative things here, see what we can achieve. Oh, that might actually just do it. Fingers crossed. Yes, there's a bolt in. Finally, success. Okay, there we are. Spindle on after a lot of fighting. Best part is I get to do it all over again on the other side and hope that I don't eat a spring. But we'll get these tightened up. I'll circle back after I get the other side finished up. Alright, coil spring in on the other side. Thankfully I didn't have to ride the struggle bus near as long. What I ended up doing is I pulled the strut out of the way to begin with, put the ratchet strap about halfway down in the coil, ran it the opposite side of the K-member so that it'd hold tension on the spring to hold it in the top, and then I was more diligent to make sure that I had it over-corrected for the tail going into the spring perch or spring pocket in the bottom of the control arm. And then essentially the way that worked the best was to put a pry bar in there, pry it up, and take the rubber mallet or the dead blow, because the spring would be out from where it needed to be. Basically pry it up to compress it and just knock the spring back along the edge of the pry bar. And that eventually got it in there. The thing that I had a little bit more of a concern with was when I went to actually jack the control arm up to put as much pressure as I could on it. We've got the car on the flipper and we've got the radius side on this side. So as I was jacking up the passenger side, the car wanted to roll. I did put some wedges and blocks underneath. I've got probably 5 inches, 6 inches of wood in height. That helped it a little bit, but then it still wanted to roll. So I ended up putting jack stands under here and the rear frame rail to try and give it a little bit more. Got it to the tipping point, and then ended up having to sit on the top rail here of the car to be able to compress the spring a bit more to get the screwdriver into the spindle and the strut there to be able to pry it and line it up to get the bolt through. So that was fun, but managed to make it work a lot better. Threw the steering rack in real quick, and basically I've got my original tie rods off the donor car. What I'm going to go through is just basically I've got the spindle kind of lined up straight-ish with the length of the car, and we're going to go through, tighten up this tie rod, or spin this tie rod in until it's basically in line with the hole in the spindle. And I think that my steering rack is actually turned a little bit because I don't have quite as much thread engagement on this side, so I'll have to fiddle with that a little bit. But basically I'm going through and I'm going to get it so that this tie rod wants to just slip into the straight spindle nice and easy, and we'll tighten them down. Then we're done the front. Then comes the back, and I'll probably have the same kind of issues because there's no weight in the back to compress the springs. Back in the shop, it's the next day. Last night after I finished up the front end, pulled out the differential, had this great theory about swapping the axles because I got my 5-lug ones to go in, and then getting this slipped under there. But it was about 9:30 by the time I finished up. I hadn't eaten all day. and I'm not sure why, but for some reason I've been pretty tired. It could have something to do with like the 2 a.m. nights in a row, and then the 1 a.m. night after that, and then last night was 9:30. So I decided to call it. Excuse me, call it. And the diff made it this far. Plans have since changed. I really want to get this sandblasted. I thought, okay, I'll put the axles in it. We'll put it under the car, and then I can get it sandblasted either here by my buddy Dale, who did the rest of the car, or I'll wait till it gets later down the road and I do some other stuff, get that blasted. But he had mentioned that he could probably do it in the near future, which could be before the car goes to Detroit. So if I put this in as 4-lug, then I'll pull it out, have it blasted, put new seals in it, and then put the axles in it and be good to go. So right now, that is our theory. So it is going in as you see it. At this point, I'm just going to leave the brake lines, the backing plates, everything connected. Parking brake cables, like just leave it all in there because I'm going to pull it out probably in a couple weeks and then go through it all. So this is going to go under the car. We're going to have mismatched wheels. Doesn't matter. It's going to get it out of the shop, which is important because tomorrow, everything in here, all the toolboxes and everything else, starts to get packed up and sent out the door. So, right to the last minute, but we're getting it done. We're going to jump into this and see how it goes to get this differential in with no weight in the back either. Quick little setup of the differential on snowmobile dollies. Convenient. They come in a 3-pack, one for each end and one under the pinion. So this will now glide along the floor in theory. Yeah, not bad. And we can get this position underneath once that shock stops tangling with things. But yeah, we'll get this slid under here. And then I guess get some lower control arms on, get some springs in, and get it pressed up in there. Fingers crossed. Okay, so a little fiddling around, but nothing too crazy. Everything went in way easier than it normally would, and there was 0 issues with no weight. So I'm going to take that win, and if you guys noticed, yes, I did just hold the socket with my hand for tightening the nut on the forward part of the lower control arm in the torque box, and it worked. I don't think I've ever achieved that before. Impact gun and holding a socket. Apparently you don't need a ratchet all the time. We got springs in this thing. We got shocks hooked up. Guess we might as well go ahead and throw some wheels on it. Alright, so this is a pretty monumental step for this shell to be on wheels for the very first time. So since I'm staying 4-lug, it seems only fitting that we go OG and throw a 10-hole on here off of the original donor car for this build. It's even got a snow tire on it, so it's like ultra Canadian. I'm not sure why, especially considering that car never made it through winters, with judging how clean it was. I wonder if it actually had a set of aftermarket wheels on it and these got thrown on for winter storage, because they're in really, really good shape as well. They're a bit dirty from sitting for the last couple of years, but they're not all scuffed up, corroded, pitted like we would typically see up here. I'm going to go ahead, get this thing lined up, and get her bolted on. And we're going super high class with 2 lug nuts per wheel. The wrong size socket. Alright, let's try that again. Awesome. Alright, I'll admit it. I might have goofed a little bit. I went ahead and got a couple Crown Vic, Steelies, Donuts, Space Savers, whatever you'd like to call them, and a couple Ford Falcon ones. And when I figured out that I was going to put the 10 holes on the back today, I took those Crown Vic ones and brought them into a storage area in town, which is 30 minutes away. Kept the Falcon ones because they matched each other, and I'd put them on the front. Well, when I looked up the other day the Falcon bolt pattern to verify it, I didn't look below that and check the center bore, which happens to be smaller, so they don't like to fit on the hub. Luckily, I had this kicking around, and I only have one. I would be happy to find 3 more. These are from 96 and up, Crown Vic, Lincoln Town Car, and Mercury Grand Marquis. I don't know exactly what year they went to. I've read somewhere around 02, but it might be later. If anybody has any of these or sees any in wrecking yards and wants to reach out, please hit me up on Instagram at Notorious Autosports or email me at notoriousautosports@gmail.com. I would love to get 4 of these on the car. It would be great. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and put one on. And this is going to be our last wheel. And then we actually get to lower this car down onto wheels for the first time ever. This one, we're going high tech. It's getting 3 lug nuts. And it's a snug fit, but it just fits over the bore. So, really nicely. Another socket problem. I gotta go and get a deep socket. Alright, we're back. Awesome. This thing has 4 wheels on it now. Time to actually go ahead and unbolt the flipper and lower this thing down. Alright, here we go. Oh, that is so cool. Time to do the front. Alright, thank you guys so much for watching this episode of Notorious Autosports. Just kidding, just kidding. You get to see it all. Let's drop this thing down. Woo! Yeah! Alright, I'm pretty stoked with that. Mission accomplished this week. One final step on this thing. Let's bolt the steering wheel on. I actually had an extra column and pedal box, so I'm able to keep the really nice clean ones from the donor car out of the weather. This I want to try and keep it covered all the time or indoors, but if it does happen to get caught outside, at least there's not going to be nice parts getting exposed to the weather. That's the last step. We're done. Project finished. Completed. Nowhere near, but for this week, probably this month, I'm finished. Alright guys, there you have it. After 2.5 years in the shop with nothing on it and missing sheet metal, this car is now down on the ground with suspension, a differential, and a steering wheel. It feels so good. It's been a long thrash this week, but seeing this makes it totally worth it. All those late nights, feeling like I'm half zombie, and just keep on going out and keep on pushing, and then I get to see this. So as I said previously, if you are having project depression, just keep on pushing through, because when you see stuff like this, it makes every moment of struggle 100% worth it, and you can have the satisfaction knowing that you've done that with your own hands. I am stoked. I'm going to end it here, but Project Zero is now well on its way to actually becoming a real car and growing up, all because I've gone out and built in my garage and done it all myself. I've had some friends along the way that have helped. Dale, obviously, with the blasting, and some parts that have come along through other people, of course, that I've collected over the last couple years. But all the fabrication, all the welding, all of that, I feel very proud to say that I've done all by myself, self-taught, in this tiny little 2-car home garage in way up north in Canada here. So you guys just keep on pushing through on those projects. Throw up some comments down below of what you guys have been working on in the garage, what achievements you've made. If you are having struggles, throw it up down there. We'll all chime in, try and root you on, keep you motivated. Just got to go ahead and build. Thank you guys for watching. I'll see you next time. So it's been about 15-20 minutes now, just out here cleaning up the shop, because it looked like a bomb went off from this past week, and I just keep getting more and more excited just seeing this car on the ground, and I just had to share that with you guys. I'm just stoked, and it's just I don't even know how to explain it, but I'm just so pumped to see what I can do next on this car, get it that much closer to being a car, and just keep going with it. This has just reignited my passion for the project. I walk by it, seeing it on its side in the garage, and you just kind of look over. It was a year and a half that I wasn't on it, and I just look over and look at it and just see this big, daunting task that it just seemed so unaccomplishable. Just because it was a lot of work, and I just didn't have the time or the mindset to dedicate to it. And now that I finally got it done, I'm just pumped to keep going with it. I'm actually very disappointed that I am leaving the shop here tomorrow, and if I wasn't, I'd just keep going with this thing and doing what I could, spray the inside, and then just keep going and going and going. But this has got me a newfound passion for this project, and I just want to keep on going with it, and I just wanted to share that with you guys. So thanks again for watching.